He knows it. And those in which they were, right?
Thank you.
And there are those in which they were.
You got that right.
Well, thank you for the kind introduction. I didn't realize I was going to be giving any kind of a speech tonight, but welcome on behalf of Cory tonight and on behalf of the Senate leadership on the Republican side of the aisle. We're quite excited this year. We are not only thinking, but we're quite convinced that we're going to be breaking history again, breaking ground on something that I was able to be part of 6 years ago, and that was actually controlling the gavels in the Minnesota Senate. And we think that's going to happen this year, and with candidates like Cory and the others that are going to be filling those vacancies, there's some retirees that are going on, as well as some areas that we think are real strong, that we're going to be able to take control and get control of the state government that's been in control of for the last 46 years, 44 years. You know, when people talk about, boy, can we make a difference, and you know why we're so frustrated with government, well, let's take a look at the Senate. For out of the 46 years since basically the beginning of most everybody's time that's even concerned about it, the DFL has controlled the Senate. And so if you wonder why we're having so much trouble, why the overregulations, and I know Cory's certainly talking about going after that. I and the Senate have done that as well when we did have control. And it's a constant fight of the overregulation in the state of Minnesota that's driving business out of the state. We need people in our positions that carry the gavels and to carry leadership, that actually work with, hopefully, a different governor in a couple of years. Well, we know that's going to happen. We're going to have to put up with Governor Dayton for another 2 years, but nevertheless, if we've got the gavels, we can drive, and that's important, and it should be important to all Minnesotans. Coming in the line of work that I come from, law enforcement, 34 years. They're under, I say we because it's still a family. You know, my dad was a sheriff. Under a lot of scrutiny in this country right now. In fact, we met this morning with the law enforcement folks down in the Minneapolis area, as well as the first responders and firemen, and all the problems they're coming up with. And it certainly doesn't help to have a governor who's not supporting that front line of defense, doing the job that none of us in this room would want to do, and that's protection, or police protection. So that's going to be something on the forefront. But overall, just the regulations in the state of Minnesota that have come down from the DFL. I know the candidate that's here tonight is going to be strong in that regards. I know he's got a good financial background. We need that. We need somebody that can go down the sheet and point out wrong and what we're doing. As you do remember, 6 years ago, when we did finally get the opportunity to have the gavels, we were about a $5.5 billion deficit. Those were terrible, terrible things for us to have to take over. It wasn't easy, but we actually balanced the budget. Believe it or not, we balanced the budget without raising taxes. And it's unfortunate that story didn't carry through for the next 4-year election cycle. But if we get into this 4 years, which we're very confident we will, with guys like you're hearing supporting tonight, that's going to happen. We're going to be able to at least stop some of this automatic inflation, automatic spending that's going on to Health and Human Services. We're going to look at the insurance thing. Do I have to even bring up Obamacare in this room? I mean, it's just amazing. It's just amazing where that has brought us, and the cost of business and the cost of doing business. And when the cost of doing business goes up, you know what happens. Everybody pays for it. It's a tax. Call it what you like, but more money. And all that stuff needs to be stopped, and we need to reverse that trend in Minnesota and make Minnesota nice, like we're supposed to be, and a good place to come. And not businesses thinking and even considering leaving. We just don't want that. So thank you very much for coming tonight. I've been in town for a different event earlier today. Senator Han, our minority leader, couldn't make it tonight because he is having a fundraiser for himself in Eden Prairie. Dave was elected to that position 4 years ago, and what he does as the Senate minority leader, he goes around and finds good candidates like Cory and helps them raise money and helps organize these elections. That's a huge job, and sometimes his area, sometimes his district gets shortchanged, and so he's back tending to business in his own district, because we certainly want him this November. So thank you so much for coming out and supporting Cory tonight, and if you can, of course, support the party as well, because those dollars will be going towards campaigns such as Cory's and others that are going to be in need, especially in some of these swing districts where the elections are going to be close. So thank you all again for coming, and hope you have a wonderful rest of the evening. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Bill. This time I would like to thank you all for coming, and the door's over there, I'm kidding. It's my pleasure to introduce to you the next senator for the District of 57 in Minnesota. Cory and I have been friends for several years. We met through the Apple Valley Chamber of Commerce. When I served as chairman of the board for the Apple Valley Chamber of Commerce 4 years ago, Cory was vice chair. He was my assistant, and so much of the formatting of the programs, especially the compensation program for our director and our president. So we've known each other for quite a while. When he said he was interested in running for this seat this year and asked me to be treasurer, I said, of course, of course. I believe in him, and I believe in what this is all about. And I won't tell you all about him. I'll let him do that himself. Cory.
Thanks, Eric. Thanks, Eric. And again, I want to thank him. Eric put all this together, so it made it nice that I just showed up. So again, thank you, Eric. Thanks for that. So and again, it is, I want to thank everyone for coming here this evening. It is events like these and raising money. It is a necessary evil here of the politics. You know, it just takes, just for the basics, it just takes money. You know, the lit pieces over there, you know, Senate District, I got over 25,000 homes. So if you drive, just give one of those to everybody, you know, that's almost $2,500 to print, just to print it, not even if we do mailing or anything else. And so that's what the money's going to be used for. It's used for that. It's going to be used for mailings and online advertising, etc. So we keep getting asked, you know, hey, how things are going. I think some of this is, you know, being a first-time candidate, being ignorant is good. So I assume it's good, you know, but we are raising money. We've been outdoor knocking quite a bit. I'm into my second box of lit pieces, so I know I've done at least over 1,500 lit drops and door knocks so far. So the response has been pretty good. We do have a reporting, fundraising report coming out. Well, it's due next week, so I'm not sure when the actual bill will be released. We're going to show a pretty good number. We've done enough to receive our government subsidy, so that's going to be another over $8,000 for the campaign. So we're going to have enough money to do what we need to do and to win this seat. I've been outdoor knocking quite a bit here, and people always ask, you know, why you're running, and that's a fair question. Again, I believe our government has gotten too big and too powerful, and it needs to be scaled back. Again, you've heard the story here. I've personally been affected by it, you know, with the Obamacare regulations, how it completely eliminated a company I worked for that was in business over 120 years, and it was eliminated within 2 years of Obamacare. You know, that was over 1 million people lost their insurance, over 5,000 lost their jobs, including over 500 in Minnesota. And you know, that's a major one, but even on a smaller scale. Outdoor knocking the other day. I was down in Lakeville. Approached a gentleman, introduced myself, he wasn't happy to see me. He's got a very large no soliciting sign on his door. He kind of pointed to it. And I come up and I approach, and he's got a sign on the front that says, "The silent majority is with Trump." And so I say, "Hey, I like your sign on the front." And so he opened up a little bit, and I found out he owns a business in Egan, heating and cooling, something along those lines. And he's really concerned about the sick leave ordinances and mandates coming from Minneapolis, because he has individuals going in and out of there all the time. And what he might have to hire another employee, maybe even on a part-time. Even if it's part-time, we're looking at this business having a mandate that's going to be $15,000 to $20,000 minimum in cost. Now, will this business just suck that up? The answer is probably no. Now, to have this business come out and look at your heating, cooling system or whatever, maybe the service call was $50. Well, now it's going to probably be $75 or $80 because their costs have went up. You know, that is a hidden tax that government puts onto our businesses that we don't see, that is there. whether it be a regulation like that. It might be the minimum wage increases. Remember all the uproar a couple years ago when there was a restaurant in Stillwater? He put on a bill a 50-cent minimum wage fee. People were upset by it. He's like, well, what do you think happens when you raise my cost? It gets passed on. They're like, well, I'd rather pay $9 for the hamburger instead of $8.50 and a 50-cent fee. He's like, no, this is what it's going to be. You're for this. There's a cost. It's getting passed on. I don't think people understand that when they run a business, you got a profit line, and whatever's above it all gets passed on. And and we need to control that, bring it back. Okay, too many of our businesses are suffering like that. Whether it's energy mandates. Met with the CEO of Dakota Electric. He's like, in the years ahead, we'll use half as much electricity, but we'll pay the same. Okay, we will use less, but with all the renewables. I'm sitting in his office, and we're sitting there watching. He's talking about solar and how ineffective it is. Nothing to grind. They're a co-op. And we're just sitting there looking at it. It's like there's no power here. He said. Then he splits the screen, and we see the wind, and the wind works. When it's windy out. Okay, so it does generate some energy. But the fact that it is being mandated onto these utilities to have to produce that, maybe it's 20-30% more, that we're hitting. Maybe with our electric bill at home, like, oh, hey, I can absorb 20-30%. Maybe we don't need out one time, whatever it may be. But we start looking at it from a business perspective. Some of those electric bills. I actually asked Darlene Miller. Her electric bill is like $50,000-$60,000 a month at her manufacturing plant. You add 20-30% of that. You talk to some of the mining companies up north, their electric bills, hundreds of thousands of dollars. And that is something that just goes right to the bottom line. And again, those are hidden taxes that are put onto our consumers and our businesses that get passed cost of goods and services. And what we're going to do here is we definitely need to try to put an end to that. And actually what we're going to do here is we're going to try to highlight this and actually show what can happen when government does get out of the way. We're still working on the details here, but we're going to have a craft beer night with the candidate. Okay? Because 5 years ago, the Surla bill was signed into law. And I actually got this from their website. For the first time in a generation, Minnesota production breweries were able to sell pints of their own beer. This was a legislative victory that's rippled through Minnesota. When they set out to change the law, there were 30 breweries around the country. Now, in part due to government getting out of the way, there's now over 100 breweries that employ almost 9,000 people and over $1.3 billion in economic development, all because of one law getting changed. How many of our businesses and industries by that? It's almost unlimited with that. I mean, just think about it. There's actually and the recidive effect of that, there's actually a radio show on 1500. Taylor laughed, but he listens to that. The beer cast. Is anyone else here listening to Jeff? He drinks some of it. I mean, think about it. There's actually, something that was illegal in this state 5 or 6 years ago. We now actually have radio shows, and there's stuff just about every weekend of all these, instead of like wine tasting, it's all this different craft beers and everything else. If you want a little more expert, Eric, he's good at that. He likes the more of the craft beers than I do. So on that. So, but we are going to host a craft beer night to kind of try to illustrate that out there of what can be done. Okay, and we need to allow more of our businesses like that to flourish. And in order to do that, we need to make sure all of our legislative candidates win. Congress all the way down. Even if we don't like what's at the top of the ticket, we still need to elect Mr. Trump as president. We need to elect most likely Jason Lewis for Congress. We need to elect myself at the Senate. We need to have Ali and Anna win at the House level, so we can restore some of that back. We cannot do that without your help. We do need people to help us with door knocking, lit drops, letters to the editor. We do need your help with that. And again, I want to thank everybody again here for coming, Senator, all the way from Alexandria. So thank you again for coming down here. And again, thanks again to Eric for setting us up, and thanks everybody for attending. And we do have some more pizza and stuff coming, so feel free to stay till 7 o'clock or a little after. So great, thank you.
Thank you.